As you probably know from the title of this video, we're going to be crocheting an oud in today's video. Now, if you don't know what an oud is, this is an oud.
Right, hello. Sorry, I was just saying, nice base.
We must feed.
Oud are aliens from the iconic BBC show Doctor Who. It is the same show where the meat comes from, which I crocheted in this video. And that answers one of the questions posed in the comments of a previous video, and in this video, while I'm crocheting the oud, I will be answering some more questions that have been asked in the comments over the last few videos. This oud pattern will be available in my Ravelry store. There will be a link to that in the description field below. Let's get started. Hello all you knitters and hookers, and welcome to Ben's Balls of Yarn. Now, I know this is kind of an odd place to be doing an intro, but all of my intro video footage was out of focus, so I'm now doing it as a voiceover. Here I'm crocheting the arms. I'm starting with the hands and working my way up. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to do a more or less no-sew technique, so by doing the arms first I can attach them as we go. Now I'm crocheting the legs. I'm starting from the foot and working my way up. So for this video I thought I would mix it up and try and film it a little bit differently, so I decided to do a lot of time lapses. However, when I was reviewing the footage I felt that they were moving too quickly, so I've slowed them down by 50% and it's kind of come out like this stop-start animation style. I hope that's okay with you guys, and I'm going to try and do the time lapses again next video, but hopefully film them a little bit better than this. So here are the two legs complete. Okay, I wanted to show you how I joined the two legs together, but because I was using quite dark yarn and quite a thin yarn, it was really hard to see on the camera, so I've made up these two little samples. So we're going to imagine that I've completed one leg and closed off invisibly, and I've completed the final round of my second leg. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip stitch, chain 4, and then I'm going to go into one of these stitches. Now which stitch you'll go into is determined by the leg, and I will explain that more clearly in the pattern. But for this one, where it's unanimous all the way around, it doesn't really matter which stitch we go into, so I'm just going to go into this one. And I'm going to do another slip stitch, not too tightly. I'm just going to place a marker in this slip stitch because this will be the new beginning of the round. Now this slip stitch counts as our first stitch, so we need to do 7 more single crochets to go around this leg. 1, 2, 6, and 7. Now we have our chain 4 here, and we want to do a single crochet into each chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we want to do 8 single crochet stitches around the leg. We can see that our slip stitch has gone into here, so we don't want to go into there again. We want to go into the next stitch. 1, 2, 7, 8. This is the slip stitch. And then finally we want to do 4 more stitches along this chain. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we've joined the two legs together and we've increased from 16 stitches to 24 stitches, and now we can just keep working in the round to build up torso, starting in this slip stitch. And now I just have to work in the round to build up the torso. And while I do that, I thought I would just answer one of the questions that someone asked in a previous video, which was, how did I learn to crochet? Which I think is a very good question to ask someone who's crocheting on YouTube. So my first memories of being introduced to crochet was when I was part of a Scouts troop. One day I got talking to one of the Scout masters about me knitting, and the following week I bought in a couple of scarves that I knitted. I must have still been in primary school, and she was very impressed, as adults who like to encourage children are, and she bought in a pattern to make some little teddy bears, and the pattern included a way to knit them but also a way to crochet them. And I'd never heard about crochet before, but obviously I was into knitting already, so I was a bit curious about it, and she showed me a crochet hook and how it was used to crochet. So I decided I would go to the local haberdashery, or I don't know what you would call it, a place where they sell like fabric and yarn and stuff. And I bought some crochet hooks and some yarn, and they also gave me a little pamphlet which showed you how to crochet. This crochet was just backwards and forwards, like this. That was the first thing I learned to crochet, and I don't think I did anything with it. I don't remember making any projects or anything. But then my mum's friend Sylvia, who lives in Canada, she came to visit. I showed her my crochet and she was like, oh, I've never seen anyone crochet like that before. And I was like, oh, how would you crochet? And she was like, oh, I would crochet in a round like this. And she was showing me what I now know was how to crochet granny square. So she taught me how to crochet granny square, and I crocheted a blanket. It was like an infinite granny square. I didn't do loads of little ones and sew them together. I just kept going round and round and round. And then later on I wanted to learn about amigurumi. I really don't know where I heard about it or whether it was just recommended on my YouTube feed, but I did learn how to crochet amigurumi on YouTube by watching YouTube videos. I'm definitely getting to the stage of having crocheted enough amigurumi to start designing my own patterns. In fact, I have got to that stage because that's what I'm doing right now. And now I'm making my own YouTube videos, so I've kind of come full circle. Anyway, I'm just going to continue crocheting this torso section until I get to the point where I want to add the arms, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. Again, to show you how to attach the arms, I've crocheted some sample pieces in chunkier, brighter coloured yarn. So we're going to imagine this is the torso, and you've crocheted up to the point where the pattern says you need to join an arm. So here is my sample arm, and it should be folded in half so that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches on one side of the arm and 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches on the other side. We're going to go into the first stitch on the back row of stitches of the arm, and then we're going to go into the next stitch on the torso. And then we're going to yarn over and pull through both the torso and the arm stitches, single crochet, then go into the next stitch on the arm, go into the next stitch on the torso, and I like to pick up the arm so you don't accidentally go into the same stitch twice. Make sure to go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through and complete the single crochet, then the next stitch on the arm, the next stitch on the torso, pull through both stitches and complete your single crochet, and then the final stitch on the arm and the next stitch on the torso and complete your single crochet. And now we've attached half the arm, and we're going to continue on single crocheting. Okay, so I've got to the point where I need to attach my second arm. So again, it should be folded in half flat, and we're going to go into that first stitch on the back edge of the arm, and then into the next stitch on the torso, and yarn over, pull through both of those stitches and then complete your single crochet. Now the next stitch on the arm, next stitch on the torso, single crochet, next stitch on the arm, next stitch on the torso, single crochet, next stitch on the arm, next stitch on the torso, single crochet. And now we are going to do some more single crochets. Okay, so this is the second round of attaching the arms, and the pattern will tell you to do 3 decreases in a row. For our first decrease, we want to pick up the front loop from a torso stitch and then a front loop from an arm stitch. And then we're going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now the next decrease is just arm stitches. So go through the front loop on the next arm stitch and the front loop on the following arm stitch. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then the final decrease stitch is going to be 1 from the arm, so go in the front loop of an arm stitch, and then the next loop will be on the torso, so go through the front loop on the next torso stitch. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So now we've attached the arm completely and we've done our decreases. Let me show you that one more time. So I'll just crochet up to the next arm. So we want to go through the front loop on torso and then the front loop on the next arm stitch. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Then the front loop of the next arm stitch and the front loop of the following arm stitch. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then the front loop of the next arm stitch and the front loop of the next torso stitch. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And now you have attached both arms to the torso and we've left a gap here for some armature to go through the arm. Alright, so we've just done the second round of attaching the arms and my gap is getting a little bit small here, so I think it's time to add some armature and some stuffing. So to do this you're going to need some kind of wire, and I've got some copper wire here, and this isn't super thick wire, it's probably about 0.5 millimeter. You're going to need some tape. I'm not sure it really matters what kind of tape you use, but I'm going to be using masking tape. You're going to need some pliers to cut and manipulate your wire, and you're going to need a little bit of stuffing. Okay. We're going to add a piece of wire that goes from the foot up into the head and then back down into the foot. And then we're going to add a second piece of wire that goes from the tip of one hand to the tip of the other hand. So we don't really want this piece of wire poking out of our action figure, so we're going to actually start by folding up about 2 centimeters of wire like this, and then taking a piece of tape and we're just going to secure that. And then we want this length of wire to come from the tip of the foot all the way up here, and we want it to be going slightly into the head, so about up here, and then we want the same length again, and then we want to bend that wire back around so we have another piece to tape, and then that is where we're going to be cutting our wire. And my pliers are rubbish. Okay. And then again we want to tape up where the wire ends so we don't have any pieces that are pointy. We don't want any pointy pieces. No, we don't. So you can see this is the length of the first wire. And for the second piece, we want to do something very similar across the arms. So I'm going to start by bending my wire into a loop and taping that end down with a piece of tape. And then this length we just want to go across the arms like this, bend that round here, and then cut the wire with the blunt pliers. And then one final piece of tape just to secure that end. This doesn't have to be super neat because obviously it's going to be all hidden inside our figure. So now we can put the first piece of wire into the arms, thread that in there, and then thread it through the other side into the other arm, and then the longer wire we can thread down into the feet. I might do it simultaneously so as not to get this wire bent too much. Getting it right down into the tip of that foot. And then finally, using your crochet hook, we're just going to poke a little bit of stuffing down into the legs because they're a little bit flat, but maybe not too much. We don't want these legs too dense because we want them to be able to bend nicely. So I'm just using my crochet hook just to poke some stuffing into the legs, and I'll do the same with the arms, and then the torso I'm actually going to stuff a little bit more densely than the legs and the arms. So here I'm just decreasing for the shoulders, and then I'm going to start crocheting the head in a minute. As I'm doing that, I wanted to answer another question I received, and that is, where am I from? I'm actually from a county called Surrey in the UK, and that is the same county as the Dursleys live in Harry Potter books. Here you can see me writing out the pattern as I go along. And now I'm just adding some 6mm safety eyes. I may have added the eyes a little far apart, but he is an alien, so I think it worked out fine in the end. So I have a length of the head colour on a tapestry needle, and I'm just using the back of my tapestry needle because I don't have a blunt needle, but this end's blunt. And I'm just going to go into the hole to the bottom right of this eye. I'm going to go around the safety eye on the inside, going around anti-clockwise, and I'm going to come out of this hole on the top right. And then I'm just going to go back in the same hole, and now I'm going to go around the eye clockwise and then come out of that same top left hole, and then I'm just going to come back round and go into that same hole again on the bottom right, sorry, and then I'm just going to poke my needle out anywhere kind of randomly there up the top. And that kind of gives this diagonal eyelid look that the oud have. And I'm just going to thread the beginning tail onto my needle, and then I'm going to poke that into the bottom right hole, and out of the same random hole I poked the ending yarn tail. And now I'm just going to tie a knot in those two to secure them. Then weaving one tail end at a time, I'm just going to poke that through the same hole we came out of, and then go somewhere random and kind of pull that double knot inside of the head, and then cut off that tail end, poking it through that hole, poking out somewhere in the back of the head, and we've secured the eyelids, and we have a nice ood shaped eye. Just while I'm embroidering this second eye, I thought I'd quickly mention about my Patreon. My Patreon has a raffle, and if you win the raffle, I will crochet something for you and ship it out to you. And if you're interested in that, there's a link to my Patreon in the description field below. Okay, so the ood do have these kind of pointy elf-like ears. I feel like the head of my model is so small that any ear that I'm crocheting is just going to be far too large. So I think I'm just going to leave him without ears. So next is probably the most iconic part of the ood, the tentacles. So I've left some front loops exposed as I was crocheting up the head, and here is where we're going to add the tentacles. Now I've done a row of 4, 3, 2 and then 1 to kind of create a triangle shape. So here's how we're going to do a tentacle. We're going to put our crochet hook under the front loop, and we are going to tie a slip knot into our dark red yarn, and we are going to put that over our crochet hook and tighten it. And then we're going to pull that slip knot through while trying to make sure that the knot side stays above the loop. And then we're going to chain 9. 1, 2, 8, 9. Then we are going to single crochet into the second chain from the hook, and we're going to do 7 more for a total of 8 single crochets. 2, 7, 8, and then we are going to put our hook under the next front loop, slip stitch, and then chain 8, and we're going to continue doing that across the row. And for the final loop of each row, we're just going to go back into the same loop. We're going to slip stitch just to secure that. And then we're going to chain 1 and pull the yarn through completely and cut the yarn. And then we can weave that tail end in when we're ready. And then you want to work across the next rows. Alright, just while I weave in the many ends of the tentacles of this lovely ood, I thought I'd talk to you about some of my favourite Doctor Who villains, which was another question I got in a previous video. So obviously I think the ood are pretty iconic, and I mean, the tentacle face and the wrinkly skin, it's pretty scary. They definitely scared me, especially in the episode they first appeared in, which was the Satan's Pit, I believe. I was quite young when I first saw that, and they were very scary. But the Ood aren't really villains, are they? They're just easily manipulated. In season 3 of new Doctor Who, the Weeping Angels, when I watched that again, I was very young, and they are scary. They're scary. Their powers are scary, and they definitely are villains. But I must say, my number one scariest Doctor Who alien, which still scares me today at the age of 29 years old, are the Silents. If you don't know about the Silents, they are aliens which can shoot lightning bolts out of their fingers, which in of itself isn't very scary. The scary thing about them is when you're not looking at them, you can't remember they exist. So there could be one right behind you, you may have just seen it 10 seconds ago, and you won't remember it's there. Now that scares me, and whenever I have to get up in the middle of the night and walk to the bathroom in the dark, I'm thinking, is there a Silence nearby? Have I just seen one? Is he looking at me? Is he about to lightning bolt me? Oh my gosh. It still creeps me out, and I have to run from the toilet to my bed, get under the duvet, and, you know, once you're under your duvet, you're safe from Silence, I've heard. So yeah, the Silence, definitely my favourite villain, or least favourite villain, depending on your point of view. Okay, so I've weaved in all the ends for the tentacles, and it is looking rather luscious, but I quite like it, so I'm going to leave it with the 10 tentacles there. And we've only got one more thing to do before we finish this model, and that is to crochet the translatable through which the Ood can communicate. So let's get on with that. So let me know in the comments below if you prefer this time-lapse kind of video, or whether you prefer the old style where you just see little bits of me crocheting and I talk you through my process. Alright, that is our little amigurumi Ood complete. I'm very happy with it and with the proportions, and I quite like having the wire armature in there because now I can manipulate my Ood, making him sit down or whatever I like. Have the arms up, have them down. I love it. And this is more of an action figure style. But if you prefer the more chibi style, I've also made this little guy, and he will also be available in the pattern. Link in the description field below. Alright, let's place our two little figures on our wall of crochet. Maybe we won't keep both Oods up there, but for now, they can both be there. Alright, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, and if you want to see more videos like this in the future, please subscribe and tell me in the comments which Doctor Who alien you want to see me make next. Don't forget to check out my Patreon, and if you want to see how I made this meep from Doctor Who, then check out this video next. See you next time, bye!